Hey, Frog fans, welcome into the Frogs Insider Postgame Show. Jamie Plunkett here with Jeremy Clark, Steven Johnson, and Melissa Triebwasser breaking down TCU's 35-21 win over Colorado, moving to 4-1 on the season. It wasn't pretty. In fact, it was quite ugly at times, as Sonny Dykes and the players talked about in postgame tonight. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. Guys, I'm going to open up with just a general question for all three of you. A win like this, coming off of that loss against Arizona State, can you call this a bounce back? TCU did cover, but it wasn't pretty. Is this technically, officially a bounce back game, Jeremy? Let's start with you.
You win by 2 touchdowns. I think obviously there were some great plays made. There were some bad plays made. And Steven brought up a great point. I hadn't really looked at it until after the game. TCU's down 14-0. Final score is 35-21. So TCU outscores Colorado 35-7. So starting out the game very bad. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here.
We won't tell the people what's going on in the background.
But anyhow, started off the game really bad, but overcame those mistakes. Didn't run the game exactly well, but a win is a win, and you got to be happy. That late score was kind of good. I mean, Eric made a great play, but I think it. I don't want to call it a bounce back, Jamie, but it was a good win to me.
Sure.
I think after last week when you blow a 17-0 lead, I think the type of mental toughness they showed tonight, even though it didn't feel like they went on that 35-7 run, the fact that you came back down from 14-0, like Sonny said, this game felt a lot like Houston from last year. We were all kind of thinking like, well, maybe we need to readjust our expectations this season. But I think the fact that you go on that run, you're still able to get some clutch stops on defense, and you're still able to make some clutch plays on offense, mainly Eric McAllister. I wouldn't call it a bounce back win either, but the bigger picture is you're remaining in the thick of the Big 12 title hunt, and you avoid another. I think that would have been a catastrophic loss to Deion if they would have lost this game. So it's better than being on the other side of it.
Yeah, I think to kind of piggyback off what Steven said, I agree with both y'all. It's not a bounce back, but it was a prove it win. And the grit that they showed, the toughness after really kind of caving a week ago, to me, that's what matters. If you want to be a player in this conference, that everybody is so close together, you have to be able to prove you can win these types of games. I do think a loss tonight would have been catastrophic for TCU season. And so it was a buckle up the chin strap, fight through a little bit of adversity, fight through some poor decisions and some bad plays. And at the end of the day, put that nail in the coffin, as Josh Hoover said, and put that final stamp on a victory that you needed, and you covered. So,
as they say, good teams win, great teams cover. I've said it multiple times already to these folks tonight. Now you hear it to friends of the show. Hey, if you are watching, whether you're watching on Twitter, on YouTube, over at hornfrogblitz.com, shout out to the best TCU community on the planet. Leave your comments on the show. We'll get into a couple of them as we go throughout the night. We're going to talk about everything, the offense, the defense, the officiating, which had quite an impact at times on this game, and where TCU goes from here. To start, though, Brian Nenninger says on YouTube, the officials were worse than Mark Sanchez's rap sheet tonight.
Starting us strong.
Just wanted to start us strong. We're not actually going to start there, Brian, but I did see it. I didn't want to forget it. We are going to start here. TCU gets 2 really important players back on offense tonight, and Eric McAllister, Kavorian Barnes. They both made impact in a variety of ways. Obviously, McAllister's 2 touchdowns were very big tonight. But, Jeremy, this is just a different offense when Eric McAllister is back out on the field, and we saw that tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's a different offense with Eric McAllister back. He's just got big playability. I mean, that touchdown catch he had his left arm behind his back. The defensive back had actually pretty good coverage, just a great throw from Josh. And Eric comes down one-handed, and then the last touchdown in the fourth quarter makes another great catch in the back of the end zone. But
almost ran me over. It was very scary.
You're right there. We did see that picture.
Okay. I did get the shot.
So that's the big thing. When you have even if they're not going to him, just having him on the field, it makes you play your defense different, because you've always got to be aware where he's going to be at, what route he's going to run, what big play is he going to come down with. You've always got to be aware when number 1 is on the field. So I think it really hurt them, not to talk about last week so much, but I think it's a different ball game if you have Eric McAllister out there the entire game against Arizona State. I think he's able to make those big plays, but just talk about that toughness that he had coming back from what we all know is now kind of a hamstring injury. He's out there running around in pregame. We see him running around, jogging through it. Sonny says he didn't know if he was going to play, didn't know if Kavorian was going to play either. but just the toughness that we saw from Eric, he's a difference maker. Mm-hmm. He's one of the best receivers, not only in the Big 12, but I think he's one of the best receivers in the nation. And anytime you have that type of impact for an offensive player, you need to have him out there. And he made big plays again tonight. We see it every week. He's out there.
I think it's kind of like we talked a little bit last week, James, like the gravity that Eric just creates on offense. It opens up the door for everybody, whether he's 80% or 100%. So I do think Sonny said it earlier in the week, coaches never want to make excuses, but he said the difference in the game last week was 3-0. Jordan Tyson and Raleek Brown for Arizona State, and TCU obviously didn't have KB or Eric. So I think it makes a huge difference, regardless of whether Eric's healthy or just the fact he's gutted through tonight, just those one-handed touchdowns at the end of the game, just that big playability. It can't be replaced yet, even whether it's Dozie, even Magic, who I think is having a breakout season. You just can't replicate the type of impact Eric has. And with KB, I don't think they wanted to run him 16 times tonight, but we'll get to that later. The blocking was so bad. He seems like the only one that can navigate those very small, those very tiny running lanes the offensive line creates. I just think the fact that both those guys gutted through tough injuries, lower body injuries, made a huge impact tonight. And I don't think TCU wins this game without both those guys playing tonight.
Yeah, and the Frogs didn't run the ball well tonight, but they ran it a heck of a lot better than they did last week, right? And I think just the threat of having a guy that defenses believe can convert a 3rd and 3 or a 4th and 1, TCU didn't have that, against Arizona State. So even though he only finished with 48 yards on those 16 carries, but he also had, he had to work hard for those yards, and he had to catch out of the backfield. It does change the offense when you have a guy you have to believe can pick up tough, short yards. And in McAllister, you talk about just the attention that he draws. 11 different guys caught passes tonight in what was a close game throughout. And so that just shows that it does create opportunities for other players. I think we will, I'm sure, touch more on the run game, and it still was a disappointing effort, but I don't think there's anybody in the stands that doesn't believe on 2nd and short or 3rd and short that Barnes isn't going to get it done. And I think that definitely impacts the way this offense can play.
I fully agree with you. And just the threat of both of those guys on the field, the gravity, as you said, Stephen, makes this such a different offense. It's why we saw Joseph Manjack get open a couple times tonight. Chase Curtis over the middle, Lafayette Kiowa catching his first touchdown pass tonight, all because there was gravity from other players. Safeties had to pay attention to one. Linebackers had to pay attention to two. I also thought, you mentioned 11 different players caught passes tonight, Melissa. I thought Josh Hoover played a much better football game tonight than he did a week ago against Arizona State. He finished 23 of 33 for 275 yards and 4 touchdowns. He took 2 sacks. I would probably say he held on to the ball too long on one of those. The other one, we'll get into the offensive line in a second. But even on a night where Hoover maybe didn't have his best night, he still was very efficient getting the ball out, making good reads most of the time. I know we had a couple comments where it's like, oh, he missed a guy there. Mm-hmm. But when Hoover's playing even at this level and you have your full set of weapons on offense, this is going to be a hard team to beat just because they're going to be able to put up points.
Yeah, we talk about the 2 sacks, but you lost left tackle Ryan Hughes early in the game. And Quentin Harris, I'm not going to talk bad about Quentin. He came in and did an admirable job, but you're missing a big offensive lineman. But Josh is going to be one of those guys that he's going to make some throws where you're going to say, man, he missed that guy or missed a wide open guy. But he's also going to make some passes that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, how in the world did he throw that pass? How in the world did he connect? Some of the passes tonight were just absolute dots, dimes, whatever you want to call them. And that's the quarterback TCU loves. TCU fans love. That's the quarterback we want to see all the time. He's going to have those plays where he makes bad throws or he holds on to the ball a little bit too long. But I think this was, you asked about bounce back. This was a bounce back game for Josh to me, because I feel like he made great decisions. I feel like he did enough running the football to make some plays. And the best thing about it, Melissa, you mentioned it, 11 different receivers. That when a quarterback can complete passes to 11 different receivers, you've got a great quarterback, and he's not just honing in on one or two guys. So good bounce back game for Josh tonight.
I think Josh he's the type of quarterback that maybe you could say Sawyer Robertson might be better. Maybe you could mention the guy at Iowa State, but I feel like with Josh, I'm talking about what other people say. I'm talking about the list. But regardless, I think with Josh, I'm not sure there's going to be another quarterback that's better than him on the field. I think the Arizona State kid, I was a little sleep on him last week. He kind of proved me wrong. But going forward, I think TCU should have confidence. They'll have the best quarterback on the field every time they go out there, at least till they get to a bowl game. If you got the best quarterback on the field, your chances of victory go up. And I think Josh Hoover is that good. And I do think this was a bounce-back game, a confidence builder for him. And we know he has a bunch of that already.
Well, I think the thing that I liked tonight that I don't feel like we saw as much last week was he played with some fire and some grit. You know, he picked up a huge, was it 3rd and long conversion right on the Colorado sideline where he really had to fight for that last yard that he needed. He got in the ref's face a little bit after that OPI call. He scored the touchdown on the sneak, you know, in that pileup. I mean, what I didn't see from him last week was in those tight moments elevating. And I thought tonight we saw that. I mean, they were down 14-0, and like we said, outscored Colorado 35-7. And a lot of that was because Josh put the team on his back. He didn't have much more time than he had a week ago, but he put the team on his back. He made plays when he needed to. And I think you go back and you talk about having KB out there and having Eric out there. I mean, I think the confidence that he has, knowing those two guys are there. I mean, he threw an absolute beautiful ball to Eric, but Eric made a hell of a catch.
Yeah.
You know, on both of those plays. They were both well-thrown balls, but I think he just believes that Eric is going to make those plays, sometimes to a fault, like we saw in the end zone against SMU, but more often than not. Yeah, it was Eric's fault, yeah. But at the end of the day, like, when you have that special relationship like Max and QJ had, you know, like, I mean, we've seen so many times over the years when those Boykin and Doc, right? You just know my guy's going to make a play. And I think Manjack and him have that too. Sonny talked about that in the post game. It makes all the difference in the world. And on that note, I too also want to add Chase Curtis was that guy tonight too. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about him, but this was Hoover at his best on a day where he wasn't perfect. But he made plays when plays needed to be made, and that's why I agree with you, Stephen, that more often than not, he's going to be the better quarterback on the field.
That fire that he showed was over the offensive PI, and I'm sure we're going to get into it.
We are.
Man, I love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it some more.
Let's do it. Okay, let's just move there. We were going to go offensive line, but you've segued us so beautifully into this. We're sitting there in the fourth quarter, Jeremy. It is 21-21. TCU has just – it is 21-21. TCU had just given up their lead, the first lead that they had taken, with a celebration penalty on Lafayette's first touchdown of his career, and then a kickoff out of bounds, which sets Colorado up at the 50. They take just 5 plays, easy drive for them, it felt like, to just get into that end zone. 34-yard passing touchdown from Salter to Amarian Miller. Yeah. Ties the game, and you're thinking, okay, well, the offense needs to step up, needs to come down and make a play. Melissa, this is that drive that you're talking about with Josh, where it's 3rd and 13. The Frogs have struggled. They've gotten down into Colorado territory, but they're struggling. He runs out to the left, 1 yard short of the line to gain. They set up a 4th and 1. You're thinking, okay, this is going to be doable. They're going to be able to get this. They've got Barnes back. They maybe can get this yard. They end up running a passing play to DJ Rogers in the flat. Great play, great design. DJ Rogers catches the ball, runs all the way down to the 5-yard line for a first down. 43-yard gain. We're thinking, man, they just set themselves up so perfectly to reclaim this lead. Flag comes out. Offensive pass interference. And on the replay, which they showed multiple times in the stadium, replay guy, you know what you were doing, by the way.
Yeah, good job.
Getting everybody riled up like that. We noticed that the pass interference was not actually on Eric McAllister because Eric McAllister never made contact with anybody. 2 Colorado DBs ran into each other and fell down and managed to get the flag. We saw Sonny lose his mind, which we've seen before. We saw the student section lose its mind and start throwing water bottles on the field. We saw some – yeah, don't do that. We also – don't do it, students, but I just want to give credit to the club section for being present and riled up enough to actually throw. I think I saw 1 water bottle come from the club section.
We did have a bottle fly over our head in the press box, too.
So shout out to y'all, but don't do that anymore, please, because that will be a penalty. And then Josh Hoover getting in the official's face for a minute and losing his composure in a way that I have not seen him lose it. I think in the moment, the referee also saw the replay on the Jumbotron and just was willing to kind of be worn out by Josh in that moment and not give him the penalty. But that was a terrible call. It might have been the worst call that I've ever seen in this stadium, and there have been quite a few. 2-part question for each of you. What was your reaction to that play? Because mine was, I think they might lose now. And then how impressed were you impressed by the way TCU regained its composure after that play?
Well, was the OPI, was that worse than the punt return or the interference against Oklahoma in 2022, where they just, what was it? There were 2 penalties, and they just like leveled the tight end, they leveled the punt returner.
That's interesting. I think context makes this one more impactful, more because TCU ended up winning that game by 3-4 touchdowns.
How about Eric McAllister's touchdown that wasn't a touchdown?
Yeah.
Also bad
in the stadium. Yeah.
But I was like you, Jamie. I was like, okay, well, it started feeling a lot like Houston from last year.
Yeah.
Like TCU, they already couldn't run the ball. There were a couple calls even earlier in the game where it just didn't seem like either TCU got a favorable review or a favorable spot. It just seemed like the self-inflicted mistakes and some of the officiating was just going to be too much. And we're going to talk about, is TCU going to be lucky to get to the New Mexico Bowl this year? So I think it's just another example of that mental toughness we were talking about. I think the football guys also saw it from up top and was like, hell no, we can't allow that to stand.
Hell no.
But I think they took advantage of the opportunity that was created by a little fortune, a little luck, or however you want to do it, a little just sloppy play by Colorado in general. So I did think that TCU was going to lose at that point until the muff punt, but I do think it's another sign of growth from last week, growth from just a mental standpoint. So you could have easily just lost all your composure, not even been able to take advantage of that opportunity because you're still focused on what happened a couple plays ago, but they didn't, and they were able to pull it out. And then, thankfully, that play didn't end up costing them a game, similar to that McAllister, that what should have been a touchdown a couple of weeks ago.
I am the minority because when I watched the first replay, did not think it was that egregious of a call. I apparently am wrong because everybody else thought it. Why I thought they called it was because McAllister basically boxed out the Colorado defender, and I didn't realize that you have to make contact in order for it to be OPI, and there was no contact. And so what I assumed was because he turned and he just boxed him out, and then he didn't really attempt to run a route. That's why he was called for it. And so I didn't think it was a great call. I thought it was a little bit soft, but not. There was a play that happened in the first half that I thought was way softer. I can't remember what it was, but
probably one of those passive interference.
Yeah, there was one play. I was like, that was
Vernon
yeah,
Glover.
that was way worse.
That were tough.
So I was like, I kind of got it. I honestly, at that point, I didn't think it was going to be great for TCU, but I didn't think that was going to cost them the game because I thought the defense was playing with so much fire. Like, I didn't really worry about the short field touchdown. Like, it's really hard not to let a team that has talent score on a short field. I had a lot of confidence the defense was going to make a play. I mean, at that point, they turned them over 3 times already, right? So I felt like TCU still had momentum, and even though that was a really difficult call at a tough time, I still thought there was plenty of football left to be played, and I was confident the defense was going to get a stop.
First thing is, Ethan's a left-footed punter, right?
Yeah.
The left-footed punter is the best thing ever because it confuses the heck out of people. And people, you dog on Ethan Crawl, but he kicked that thing so far up into the sky. Mm-hmm. It was meant to be. It was, like Steven said, the football gods rewarding TCU.
That's not what Steven said. That's not what Steven said.
For such a terrible call. I'll get that off my chest. Second thing, I love to see the fire that we saw from Josh. Could he got a flag thrown? Absolutely. But I think, like you said, the ref was kind of seeing the same thing. And so he wasn't going to throw a flag after they saw how bad it was on the big screen. But Josh showing that fire, showing how much he's willing to lead this team and just be the way he is. Man, I love to see that in a quarterback. And I think Sonny did too. He wasn't going to say it in the presser, but I think he was proud to see his quarterback fight for his team the way he did out there, because I'll guarantee you if Sonny could have done it, he would have been out there himself doing it to that ref. So it was pretty cool to see Josh have that fire lit up under him and kind of argue for his team to get that call.
Josh has been very presidential since he's been a starting quarterback.
Yes.
Very even kid. Like, he's clearly got the whole face of the franchise down, knows how to answer the question, never really gets too emotional. So I agree with Jeremy. Seeing that fire on the field, I think that kind of sparked the team. And obviously he came back and threw that touchdown a couple plays later as well.
Could argue he was presidential in that moment too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Moving right along. I do. To that point, because I think there's something to that, right? Because leadership looks a lot of different ways. And we've seen Josh's version of leadership for a couple of years now, and it has been that more stoic, politically correct version of leadership. But sometimes guys hear that same thing over and over and over again, and maybe it doesn't have the same effect as it did at the start. And so for him to get emotional like that in that moment, and he wasn't the only one, right? I think that was really good for the offense specifically, and it reminded me in the moment of Caleb Elarm's oar 2 weeks ago against SMU when Max Carroll had that big penalty after a really good third down stop. An emotional kind of correcting of a younger player. Different situations, obviously, but that same style of emotion where it's like, hey, we've got to lock back in. We've got to be better. Now, Josh was saying it to the head official. But it goes a long way, I think, for your teammates to see you be invested in that way when you are typically kind of the more stoic personality. So
Caleb did the same thing tonight too to Marcus Deal before that
Yeah.
final defensive drive, and not getting after him negatively, but using that same fire with a guy who's also pretty even keel on the field to get him fired up in a big moment. So to see that leadership develop, and like I said, to be a great leader, you have to know how to push people's buttons.
Yep.
And that, to me, is a sign of Josh understanding what was needed in the moment and his team rising to the occasion behind him.
Speaking of Josh understanding what's needed in the moment and rising to the occasion, we're going to pivot this into what was not needed in the moment and not rising to the occasion, because the offensive line did not have a good night for the second week in a row. And it's time, I think, for us to start having maybe a deeper conversation about it. You know, Stephen, you and I started to kind of breach this topic last week because they only ran at 0.4 yards per carry last week against Arizona State. They only managed 10 rushing yards tonight, 94 rushing yards, 2.7 yards a carry, still not good. And there were a significant number of times where, and I noted this to you, Jeremy, in the first half tonight, where multiple offensive linemen were on the ground consistently. And I'm not going to name names, but outside towards in, right, especially after Ryan Hughes went out of the game with the injury, there were a lot of blocking issues on the outside of that offensive line, a lot. And it wasn't specific to the run game or the pass game. It was across the board. They got to get better offensive line play if they want to accomplish anything of import the rest of this season. If they want to get to the Big 12 championship, if they want to have a chance to be a 10-win team, an 11-win team, the offensive line has to play better than it has the last 2 weeks.
I said it during the game to you. I looked over, I think I said it to Stephen too. I can't say TCU can make it to the Big 12 championship with this offensive line right now.
Yeah.
Well, at the level they're playing at right now, I don't think they would tell you they can make it to the Big 12 championship, because it seemed like every time they were trying to run the football, with the exception of a couple of Kaborian runs, they were just hitting a brick wall.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no room out there. There was no lanes created. And this is a problem that has been kind of persistent for 2 years now. It's not something that we saw last week in Arizona State, like, oh my gosh, offensive line's bad all of a sudden. It's not something new we saw tonight. It's been kind of this way since last year. So there's got to be something that is fixed. I mean, we see it on the board. People talk about something's got to change. It's not free agency. They got to play with who they got.
Right.
So someone's got to improve their game, improve their run block, improve pass blocking. I don't know what it is, but the run blocking, to me right now, if they continue to play this way, I look at the schedule, and I hate to say it after they win a game by 14 points, but I don't see a lot of wins if they can't get some sort of semblance of a run game to help Josh out, because there's going to be teams that are like Arizona State, maybe not quite as talented as those guys personnel-wise, but they're going to focus on stopping the run and make Josh beat them through the air. And as we've seen, there's moments like against Arizona State, like some moments tonight, where TCU's offense is ineffective. So they've got to do something. I don't know what that is, guys. I'm not an offensive line coach. I'm 5'7". I look like an offensive lineman now, maybe a little nose tackle, but I don't know. I don't know the schematics of how to try to improve it. Like I said, we saw some good runs with KB, but I just keep going back to this. I said it to you during the game. This reminds me so much of last year.
Yeah.
So it's got to improve at some point. They've got to be able to open up those run lanes. What we've been able to see now, North Carolina is a farce. That's it. You know, they rush for 200 yards. We all know North Carolina is probably the worst P4 team in the country. So they got to improve. They got to improve running the football moving forward.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. I don't know how you can really justify saying this team can make the Big 12 title game. I don't care how talented you are, how good your quarterback is, how good your receivers are. If you're going to be one-dimensional, you're going to be very beatable by a lot of teams on the rest of these schedules. Like, none of these games right now, I think you can just mark off and say this is an automatic W for victory. Even going to next week towards Manhattan, a place they kind of struggle with historically. That game is still tough, even though Kansas State has underachieved. So I think the question is, me and Jamie kind of talked about it last week, is it personnel? Is it a talent thing? Is it a development thing? I know that's kind of more so towards the end of the year, but at some point, they don't have a Savion Williams to bail them out this year. There's nobody on the roster, and don't get me wrong, Major's got some athleticism, but he's not big enough to carry the load like Savion was last year. So you don't have a freak of nature top 3 NFL draft pick on the roster that can bail you out. So it has to start up front. And because now you look at a guy like Cam Cook, I know he's playing at Jacksonville State, but Cam Cook's been balling, man. So apparently we weren't crazy from what we were seeing. That. So and I think, like I mentioned earlier with KB, a lot of his success comes from that jump cut. The thing we kind of noticed during the offseason, he's really good with those jump cuts and finding those small lanes. The other running backs don't kind of have that in their arsenal. So, he'll be able to kind of make something out of nothing, but there's too far off and there's nothing to be. He has to do too much. There's unblocked defenders. There's guys coming in. I can't tell you, there's maybe 5 runs where they got away to get some type of head of steam and they weren't getting hit at the line of scrimmage or behind it. So I don't know if there's like a personnel thing they have to change up. Obviously you're not going to change up your whole run scheme in the middle of the season. But I do think it might be time to consider, hey, maybe do we need to make some more adjustments? Because, they're, like I said, if you can't run on Colorado, how are you going to be able to run on Iowa State or even Houston or even
Cincinnati now?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. If you can't run against this defense, good luck against BYU.
Yeah, this is the worst rush defense in the conference, and a lot of that has to do when you look at the quarterbacks that they've played, and the running ability and athletic ability of those quarterbacks has a lot to do with that. But you're absolutely right. If you can't get it going against this team, it's going to be a long season. I do think we saw some good adjustments and some accounting for the inability to run tonight. I think like the first 3 passes were basically vertical. I think we saw a lot more. We saw Joe Pitchford in the backfield a couple of times, basically playing fullback.
Maybe he's the key.
Yeah, maybe that's it. But you have Chase Curtis back. It looked like they were trying to get creative and play that quick game a little bit more and put more bodies in the backfield in order to try to pop something. And it was better, but it's certainly not good enough. As much as K-State has struggled, you're going to be able to have to run the ball and stop the run next Saturday in Manhattan. Baylor has been up and down, but that's a team that's probably the talent level is pretty equitable with both of these squads. You've got another really good quarterback who can move. So, it doesn't get easier for the Horned Frogs here over the next couple of weeks. And if your goal is to get to that 10-win plateau and to make a Big 12 championship, you got to figure it out. I also do not have the answers, but, I think Sonny kind of said it last week that they're going to do whatever it takes in open competition. Well, you may not have a choice because Brian Hughes left the field on crutches.
Yeah.
We don't know what that means, but that's what we saw tonight. So.
Hello, Witten Van Hoy.
Yeah.
It might be time. Look, and I'm not gonna sit here and go on a long diatribe about the way that TCU has been recruiting in the trenches, because I think we see them having more success with some of these blue chip guys on the defensive side of the ball, right? Marcus Steele, a couple guys that are on the commit list right now for 2026, but there's no reason that you can't both be a developmental program like they so clearly want to be and find a way to go get some of those blue chip offensive linemen on the roster out of high school. Because at the end of the day, even though those high school kids are going to cost you some money, they're going to cost you less than trying to go get a kid who's a junior out of the portal, who's going to be of any worth, right? So I just think, and it doesn't, to me at least, seem like a major pivot. I don't know the financials of the situation, but I feel like the fix is kind of right in front of them long term. Short term, they got who they got, and they're going to have to figure it out. Also of note, no Jeremy Payne tonight. Didn't see him on the field. A little bit curious because he wasn't on the injury report. I personally forgot to ask in postgame about that one, but we'll get it at the midweek to see what's going on with Jeremy Payne. All right, let's move to the other side of the football, because Colorado jumps out to a 14-0 lead, and then they get 7 points the rest of the way. It was very similar for Colorado's offense tonight as it was against BYU for them last week. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead, and then they only had 150 total yards of offense through the second, third, and fourth quarters total. Did you guys see anything different after those first 2 drives from TCU's defense? What changed? What shifted for you guys? And what made TCU more successful overall defensively tonight?
think they were a little bit better on third down in the second half. What were they, maybe 7 to 8 in the first half? I think they was number 1 to maybe 2 or 6 in the second half. So I think there was a little more pressure. I think they did a better job of containing him, because Salter's best throws for the most part, except for that touchdown in the fourth quarter, he was rolling out on almost every single time, kind of getting out in the pocket and finding the guy. It just got loose after running for 4 or 5 seconds. So I thought Namby had his best game of the year. I thought Caleb's averaging, 10 tackles a game the last 3 games. Man, he just continues to make a lot of money. And I think overall TCU is probably the epitome of the bend but don't break currently. I wouldn't call them a dominant unit. They're pretty good on first and second down. That third down defense is a little tricky right now. But I just think overall they kind of continue this trend of being, they'll give up a couple yards, they'll give up some first downs, but more often than not, they come up with clutch stops, third down, sacks, turnovers, that pick by Namby at the end of the half. If Colorado even gets a touchdown or field goal there, who knows how different this game is. So I think they continue to show the tendency of how opportunistic they are, how clutch they are. I wouldn't call this a dominant unit, but I still feel like they're better than last year, though.
They remind me a lot of the 2022 group, right? And they timely turnovers, tipped balls, taking advantage of opportunities. Not the most, physically imposing, not the most dominant, not the best pass rushers, but they have that clutch gene, they have that it factor, they have a little bit of luck and the ball bouncing their way. And I completely agree with you, Stephen. I think the biggest difference between those first 2 drives and what came after was how they contained Caden Salter. He is not the best passer you're going to see in this conference, but he's an incredible athlete, and he's a guy who's already been a little bit on his heels and has been struggling and has had some, like talking about losing his confidence and stuff. And so when he can't do what he does best, it starts to show in how he plays the rest of the game. So that and tightening up a little bit on the run defense and forcing them into second long and third and long because they had Salter under pressure early. I think that was the biggest difference tonight.
He came into the game second on the team in rushing for Colorado. So I think, like Melissa said, I think they did a great job containing him. I think we saw a little bit more pressure, a little bit more blitzes. They didn't get to him sometimes. Like K9 missed a couple guys, but anytime you give pressure to Caden Salter, he's going to rush. He's not the best quarterback when he's feeling that pressure. Now, when he's rolling out of the pocket, he'll throw some passes that look really, really good, and then there's also some passes that get intercepted. So I think Andy Avalos dialed up a couple of things that confused him a little bit, made him throw some passes off the mark. So I think that's the biggest adjustment that we saw, and obviously TCU's run defense forced them into becoming one-dimensional late in the game, and they had to rely on Caden Salter. And no offense to the kid, but he's just not the type of quarterback Josh Hoover is. He's not going to be able to put a team on his back and let Colorado just pass all night long. He just doesn't have that ability. So once TCU took away that run game and they put it all on Caden Salter's shoulders, he had 1 touchdown pass in the fourth quarter, but that was just it was kind of a fluke play to me because I think Jamel had pretty good coverage, and there's just one of those things like we saw against Abilene Christian, underthrown passes usually go to the receivers, and it was kind of that kind of play. I couldn't fault Jamel for giving up that big play, but that's the biggest changes I saw in the second half.
Salter missed that wide open. Was that the second half where he missed that wide open touchdown? The receiver got past Bud Clark and he just underthrew.
And that allowed Bud to recover. And I don't think Bud touched it, but he got in the way of it a little bit and created some chaos on that play. A couple of things that stood out to me defensively for TCU tonight. They won the turnover battle 4-0. 3 interceptions, and the muff punt was more of a special team situation. But they also allowed Colorado in late down situations, 3rd and 4th down situations, to convert 10 out of 15 opportunities. So 67% of the time. So to me, the turnovers were even more critically important when you consider how poorly TCU's defense played in late downs, because otherwise, especially those 2 interceptions in the last 2 minutes of the second half or the first half, if those turnovers don't happen, we were talking about the possibility of TCU heading into halftime down 21-7, right? Or even 21-14 on that final drive. If those turnovers don't happen, this could have been a much different football game with the way TCU's defense was playing in late down situations. And for the most part, they were not 3rd and terribly long situations for Colorado. But there was one, and I want to bring this play up specifically because I think we were all just kind of bamboozled by it a little bit. 3rd and 9, Colorado throws a pass out into the flat. Namby seems to have the guy wrapped up, and then he just stops. And I couldn't tell if he thought the ball had been dropped or what, but that play turns into a first down, and I believe that's the drive that Colorado scored their last touchdown on. I might have that wrong, but
I'm trying to remember.
I
either
don't
way.
think so because I think it was
That
on
was a
it was
short-
on this
that was
side
a
of the
short
field.
field.
Was it okay?
Yeah.
Then I take that back. But that was an interesting play to me. There were still some of those moments with the defense tonight where I just kind of scratched my head.
Yeah.
You know, and that is, I think, a concern long term, because if you're not winning the turnover battle like they did tonight, that can compound and hurt you.
Well, I think the biggest area of concern is, and I think, Jeremy, I'll let you elaborate on a little bit more, is there's just such a big gap between their safeties and their cornerbacks. Like, I love TCU safety. I love what the development we've seen from Jamel Johnson. Bud Clark, I think, was a lot more disciplined, a lot more impactful today.
Mhm.
Even guys like Austin Jordan and K9, I think, have kind of formed a nice duet at nickel. But when it comes to their cornerback play, when the ball is in the air, man, you just don't know what is going to happen. They just have not been as good at the point of attack or the point of contest as they were in past years. They get a lot of DPIs. There were 2 more tonight on vertical glove, and I think they were controversial. But I think I can still see why they might have called it. They don't seem, the safeties, I think, are a bit more instinctive, a bit more reactive. They generate most of those plays you're seeing. I know they're banged up at cornerback, but right now, if I'm on defense, I think unless they send multiple guys, the pass rush with 4 guys is still inconsistent, which means those cornerbacks want to cover more. And I'm not sure they're up to it just yet, at least the guys we've seen out there so far.
And it doesn't feel like they're confident in sending more than 4 guys because of probably the reasons that you mentioned, right? Like, you take somebody out of coverage or out of the run, because the run defense still is leaving a lot to be desired. I thought the tackling tonight too was pretty poor at times. Like, obviously the Namdi play, which, I mean, again, I don't know what happened.
You had to thought it was a
but even beyond that, there were a lot of times, especially on 3rd down, and I think a big reason why Colorado converted the rate they did, they had 2 or 3 guys at the point of attack or at the ball, and Colorado receivers just wriggled out of it. Now, they have some really elite athleticism and speed at that position, but still, TCU's got to finish plays. And if they want to, bend but don't break is a risky way to play, I think, in this league. And with some of the offenses you're going to see, they've gotten away with it quite a bit. But at the end of the day, it seems like it's just detail stuff. If you can just tighten up the detail stuff and finish plays, this has a chance to be a really strong unit.
Yeah, ask Kansas State how bend don't break defense worked out for them in the 4th quarter today.
I mean, I just going back to giving up long 3rd downs. I said it on the board, and I've said it a ton of times over the years. If you give a D1 quarterback 3-4 seconds to throw, he's going to find someone. Even if it's Caden Salter, he's going to find someone, and that was what happened a lot tonight. Just so much time. But I will mention one play that wasn't all on the pass defense. That last drive in the 2nd quarter, they had, a 3rd and 9? And the next thing you know, Colorado's rushing for a 25-yard run.
Yeah.
And then the very next play, it's a busted coverage. They get another long play down inside, I believe, the 15. But those kind of plays, it's almost maddening at some point, because you're getting a little bit of that momentum. And it's like, over the years, and TCU fans, you guys know this, it's always like, if the offense is sputtering, the defense is playing well.
Yep.
When the offense starts to go, the defense starts to sputter. There hasn't been a lot of consistent complementary football. They haven't done that this year, in my opinion. So that's kind of what we saw tonight. Just right when TCU's getting the momentum, and we joke about it in the press box, oh, this is when TCU gives up a big play. And then sure enough, that joke comes to fruition, and we're like, man, what is going on here? But I think, along with the offensive line, getting off the field, because you know what teams are going to do, guys? They're gonna throw up the ball. They're gonna hope for a pass interference, or they're just gonna go deep, because they know TCU cornerbacks are struggling covering the deep pass. So I think teams are gonna start seeing these things, and they're gonna start utilizing those types of plays moving forward, because they know TCU is struggling so much when they're in those 3rd and long situations.
All right, guys, let's start to wind down here. Just a couple more smaller things to talk about as we end the post-game show here. Thank you, first of all, to the 575 of you that are watching, whether that's on YouTube or Twitter or on hornfrogblitz.com. We love each and every one of you. Super grateful for your support. This has been a blast to do this year, so I'm glad that all of you said yes to this crazy idea, and super thankful for everyone who has been tuning in since day one. And even if this is your first time tuning in, thank you for doing that. The tight end room tonight, someone posted a comment. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? There it is. It was Brian again. Shout out to Brian. Six receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown from the tight ends today. Chase Curtis, DJ Rogers, Lafayette Kiowa. They have been very important to this offense this year. Didn't want to let them go unrecognized on the show tonight. Quick thoughts on the tight end room tonight.
I think it's been a major improvement over last year, where they brought in Drake Dabney. That was a bit of a dud, I think, overall, just from an addition from the transfer portal. I got to imagine they've already kind of outpaced his production from last season.
Yeah.
Easily. DJ Rogers, I think, is a guy that I think he has to be moving up on some NFL draft boards, just with his mobility and the way you rarely see a team run a swing screen to the tight end behind the line of scrimmage. They did a couple times. He picked up a lot of yards, so his athleticism, and he's made some. Didn't have to do it tonight, but there's been some times this year where he's made some tech catches where he's gotten rocked. So I think his ability to make plays after the catch and some of his strong hands, I think he's been really impressive. The room was really impressive tonight overall.
I think you can make a case for unsung MVP for Chase Curtis, right? I mean, he does. And Jeremy, you asked him about that tonight, about just doing all the. Was it Steven? I can't remember. It was Steven, you asked him tonight, as I said from the beginning, about just being. He's been in this program for so long. He's fought through so many injuries, and he's done it all to come in and block, and to play on special teams, and to do all of those things. And he said, he's like, it's fun when I get to make the catches. Like, you asked him, what it feel like to get rewarded, and he doesn't even look like it's a reward to him. He's here to do the dirty work, and if the ball comes his way, he's ready to make plays. We saw him have the touchdown against SMU. But he has just done so many things that have become so important. He came up with the muff punt. Like, he was the one that came up with the ball tonight too. Mm-hmm. So having a guy like that along with DJ, who has been so incredible on the offensive end, and to see Lafayette get his first touchdown. I mean, another kid that has stuck around and bid his time and got an opportunity to celebrate and took full advantage of that opportunity to celebrate, much to the chagrin of his head coach and the officials. Yep. But yeah, it's been a big difference, and it's been so fun to see TCU use the tight end position so well this season.
I can't remember a time where, through the first few games of the season, where we've seen not one tight end but two tight ends, and then tonight we saw three tight ends make plays. But I think DJ and Chase have been incredibly consistent this year. Yeah. And I was really happy to see Chase make those plays today. He had a big catch over the middle, but the play I really liked is they had a 3rd and long. He catches the ball over the middle, 6'5", 260 pounds, whatever he is, jukes the defender and is able to get a first down. I think he got 11 yards off of it, something. I don't remember the stats, but that guy has just poured in everything to this program. Been here forever. I think he's 25, if I'm right. I'm not joking. I think he's 25, but that's the type of leadership that you want for this team.
He's got to pay his own health insurance otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really truly think that this is a year where, and I can't remember the last time where TCU just had two tight ends that were as productive and that you can rely on as much as you can. DJ Rogers and Chase Curtis so far through 4 games.
Yet.
And
the guy who's supposed to be the star, right?
And then, it was really cool to see Lafayette get that touchdown tonight. Like you said, refs need to let people have fun, man. When did Spock in the football draw unsportsmanlike, Steven?
There's a lot of taunting stuff that I think I don't know, officials think fans is unsportsmanlike, but I think that's good for the game, whether it be NFL or college. I'm not saying run over to the sideline and cuss Dion out or anything like that, but a spike, I think you can let that go.
Yeah.
Let that go.
I agree. Kicking seems to still be a concern. 30-yard missed field goal for Nate McCashlin tonight. Kicked a kickoff out of bounds. Still a point of concern. The good news is that if TCU can find out a way to get the running game going a little bit better, 4-down territory doesn't seem to be something that they're too shy about. Yeah. So that's a good kind of counter to the poor kicking game. We talked about 3rd and 4th down situations for TCU's defense. They faced 18 3rd and 4th down situations tonight. They converted on 9 of them. That's 50%. Over the last 3 games, guys, 51 late down situations, 3rd or 4th down situations, they've converted 26, right at 51%. That's really good, but the volume of late down situations is a little bit concerning to me. They got to get more successful early on in downs. Paige Beckers was here tonight, Melissa's favorite.
Beckers was here tonight, and she recognized me and said hello.
That was great.
And so was Steve Avalo, too.
Yes, I would have loved to hear his thoughts on some of the offense tonight.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. It was fun to see a lot of the coaches and players take pictures with Paige after the game, too. It was fun to see. There was a big group of kids, like probably 10, 11-year-old kids who were like talking to her the whole time she was down there, and She went to UConn, so she hasn't gotten to see a lot of big-time college football. And I asked her about the difference. She said it was pretty awesome, and it was a lot different than what she had seen in college. That was cool.
Love that. All right, final takeaway for each of you from TCU's 35-21 win over Colorado to move to 4-1. Melissa, let's start with you.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, TCU found a way to win and to win comfortably when they needed to. There are obvious concerns among the offensive line and special teams, and I think it's going to be hard to beat good teams unless they figure it out. But they showed some heart, they showed some grit, and they showed some tenacity, and I really liked what I saw out of Hoover just in fullness tonight. And again, when you have a guy like that, you're not going to be out of many games. And I think that's what he showed tonight, is he's going to keep trying to will this team to get to what its top of its potential is.
For me, I think TCU is a good team. I think they can win a lot of games this year. But after tonight, as presently constructed with the issues in the run game, issues in the kicking game, still got to work on the third down defense, I don't think this team can reach its goals of winning a Big 12 title, or at least competing for a Big 12 title, unless they fix these issues. To me, these are fatal flaws that's the difference between going 8-4 and 10-2, and that could be the difference between competing for a playoff spot or going to the Liberty Bowl. So I think TCU has work to do. I think they'll win a couple more. I think they'll have another good season. But if they can't fix these flaws, it won't be the great season they were hoping for.
They needed this win. As crazy as it sounds, the second game of Big 12 play was a must-win game.
Yep.
Because if you lose the second game, you're pretty much out of it. I was really impressed with the resiliency from this team tonight. Down 14-0, they were able to come back. And like we've mentioned time after time, they just pretty much dominated the scoreboard. It didn't seem like it, Steven, but it is what it is. I agree with both of y'all. There's a lot of concerns I have moving forward. You can't look at this game and look at it and say, well, man, everything was great, because everything wasn't great. The run game still, I mean, I'll go back. I don't think we mentioned it, but not being able to score on the 1 yard line. You had 2 downs where you're on the 1 yard line and could not get enough push. That's going to come back to bottom. And if the secondary cannot figure out a way to eliminate the big, long third down conversions, that's going to come back and bottom. So I'm very happy for the win, Jamie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take that away from them. A win is a win. It's very hard. Every coach in America says it. It's very hard to win college football games. TCU's 4-1 right now, 1-1 in the Big 12. Tough game next week in Manhattan. Can they get that monkey off their back? Can they go up to Manhattan and win a ball game? But like I said earlier, a lot of concerns. I can't sit here on, what is it, October 5th now? We're doing this at 12:07 in the morning. Right now, I can't say TCU's going to play in the Big 12 championship. If they fix some of those things next week, then I'll come back to that side. But right now, I'm just happy for them to get a win against Colorado.
Speaking of wins, here's your stat of the night: 31. That's the number of wins Sonny Dykes has now as TCU's head coach in just about 3.5 seasons. That's the most wins he's had at any stop as a head coach along the way. He had 30 at SMU. He's got 31 now as TCU's head coach. He has the best winning percentage of his career as a head coach at TCU out of all of his stops. So congratulations to Sonny Dykes. It was win number 102, I believe, something along those lines, and win number 31 at TCU. Long way to go to catch up to some of those leaders, but I'd say he's gotten off to a pretty damn good start.
This has certainly been a strong start. Playoff appearance, 9 wins last year. I think they'll be in that 8 to – I think they can still win 10 games. They should be in that 8 to 10 win range, I think, again this year.
Hey, Pop-Tarts Bowl was here tonight. Reps and Pop-Tarts Bowl.
So Alamo Bowl as well. Pop-Tarts Bowl. Let's get it going.
Bowl so I can go back to Phoenix. Or the Fiesta Bowl, TCU fans.
Let's say Fiesta Bowl.
Come on now.
Fiesta Bowl, great bowl. As long as I'm back in Phoenix, that's a win.
To the 655 of you that are now watching across platforms, thank you so much for joining us past midnight here on the Frogs Insider Postgame Show. For Jamie, I'm Jamie Plunkett. For Jeremy Clark, Steven Johnson, Melissa Triebwasser, we will talk to you next time. Make sure you like on the YouTube channel. Go to hornfrogblitz.com and subscribe. Go to the Fort Worth Star Telegram and subscribe. Follow all of us on the socials, and we will see you after Kansas State. Go Frogs.
Go Frogs.